Hello, everybody. This is the third of the series of Mayor's Fall Update reports, and we'll be speaking with Mayor Frank Campion in about a minute or so. So please hang tight, and as soon as we get more people joining, we'll start up. Thank you. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be starting in about 30 seconds. Well, let's get underway. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third session in our Mayor's Fall Update series. Today, we will feature Frank Campion, Mayor of Welland. The rest of the lineup coming up is October 29th next week, Jim Diodati, Mayor of Niagara Falls, November 12th, Marv Junkin, Mayor of Pelham, November 19th, Terry Ugolini, Mayor of Thorold, followed by December 3rd, Bill Steele, Mayor of Port Colborne. We thank all the mayors, of course, for participating in this series, and we know that many of our members are concerned and have a number of questions regarding what is happening in our communities during these, needless to say, challenging times. I look forward to the information we're about to be obtained and the following updates, and for the leadership that we have to demonstrate from all of our mayors in Niagara. Like to thank our sponsors, B4 Networks, who's helping us today with our tech side, Growth Associates, myself, Vern Milo, and also our partner, the Niagara Board of Trade and Commerce. The format for this morning is going to be an update from Mayor Campion. We'll then open it up for questions. And please note that if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you should have a Q&A icon show up. Click that and post any questions you like. We'll try to get to them. And if we don't, please feel free to contact the chamber, and we'll see if we can't get that particular question answered for you afterwards. This will be recorded, and you can view it online at the chamber website whenever you like. And so that's about it for that. And again, that's a Q&A button and not the chat button. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Campion, Mayor of Welland, and I'm certainly excited to hear what the mayor has to say. There are a lot of great things to hear about Welland, and be a great update. So Mayor, I'll pass the floor on to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vern. Nice to join you folks again. I did want to acknowledge and thank you guys for making the effort to do these interviews and all of the other things that you're doing. I'm certainly following all of your communications that you send out, and it's valuable to not only the business community, but the community at large. So I do want to thank you folks for what you're doing, particularly during the pandemic. It's important to keep our business community aware of what's happening. And as you know, things continually changing as we, go from phase 1 to phase 2 to modified phase 2 to phase 3, et cetera, et cetera. So the rules are continually changing, and it's critical that we can, continue to communicate, because I think there are a lot of businesses, and from my perspective, the community as well, need to know exactly what the rules are. It can become very confusing, and especially for businesses where the requirements change. You can have so many people inside, and you can have so many people outside, social distancing, PPEs. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I think these are very valuable things to do. I'll just start off by saying, I heard your roster there for the coming weeks. And I wanted to reiterate that the mayors of Niagara and the regional chair are working very closely together. We have regular meetings, Zoom meetings like this. I just had one yesterday, and just talking through issues that are relevant. I think one of the things you're going to see, you may be aware of, that there's a motion coming to Regional Council regarding the mask bylaw, which can be a contentious issue. We did have some protesters out front here a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago. But we're still committed to ensuring that the community is safe. And, I guess the concept is to, certainly err on the side of caution to make sure that we're covering all the bases. So there will be, here's another change coming up. Hopefully, the mask bylaw may be altered to include indoor areas and condominiums and apartment buildings, which makes sense, because in a lot of those places you can't keep your social distance when you're getting in an elevator or in a lobby. So I guess I just using that as an example of how we continue to work together with the region, with public health, to ensure that the safety of the community, and we continue sending out those messages. And I think that's a valuable thing as well. It's important for us to understand the rules and then to follow the rules as closely as possible. And if the majority of the population, certainly in Welland, and I believe in Niagara, but certainly in Welland, the majority of the population is adhering to the rules. There are a few people that aren't, and that's a dangerous thing. But to sort of segue into the business community, it's a responsibility of the government to tell people what the rules are. And to enforce them to the best of your ability. And it's important to the business community, because we don't want to be the curve all of a sudden start spiking and creating problems for us. And then that, of course, will then set us back as it happened in Peel and Toronto. We don't want that to happen here in Niagara. So we're trying to protect the business community by protecting the community at large, so that we can keep our businesses open and get to the next phase where we can even open up more. So I guess that's just an overall statement that, we are concerned, and we're doing quite well here in Niagara, but it's a matter of, we're doing well, so let's just forget the rules. We're doing well because we're following the rules, and we want to continue to do that. And we appreciate the business community adhering to the rules as well. It's not easy for business it's an expense for them. They're having difficulty, paying the bills and making ends meet because of the reduced number of people that they can have in their businesses. And we want to support our businesses. If you drive by City Hall, you'll see our screen. I have a message up there that's been going on for a month or so, and it's support your local business. We need to, the people in our community need to support our local businesses as well as other businesses. And that's a message that we really want to emphasize. So enough about that part, but so how are we doing at the city? We're doing well. Financially, our municipality, City of Welland, I believe is probably a leader in responsible mitigation of costs and losses associated with COVID-19. We get a regular report, and we are doing quite well. We've taken some drastic measures, which I've spoken about before. We had to go through some layoffs, which is we don't want to do, but we have a responsibility to the taxpayer to ensure that we're not racking up huge bills that have to get paid for by the taxpayer. So our mitigation, it has been very successful, and we are in great shape where at this point, and if we continue on the path that we're on, there should be no impact from COVID-19 on the 2021 budget and rates. And we're working very, very hard to ensure that we don't have an increase in rates. And I think it's achievable. I believe that we will be able to come in with a budget that is responsible, gets the job done, continues to improve our infrastructure, roads and sewers, et cetera, et cetera. So, the measures that we're taking are going to pay off in the long run for our community, business community, as well as residents, by having a level or stabilized tax rate, which we, as I say, I'm hoping I'm going to be proud to say that we weathered, virtually a year of COVID-19, and it's not going to have an impact on the tax rates going forward. So hopefully we can continue with that. It's been interesting in Welland, so I have not not come to City Hall throughout the entire pandemic. There's business to do, so I've been here on a regular, my regular schedule hasn't changed much, but the way we meet has changed, as we are experiencing here, as well as with City Council. So Council and our team here have been doing a good job to ensure that the business continued through COVID-19. And, there's several examples of that, which I'll outline. It's been maybe busier through COVID-19, and we've been focusing on a lot of things. So one of the things, we had a council meeting on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and an interesting item that came from that was we've been working with Empire Homes, who are doing some development down in the Dane City area. And just as an example of how we're operating, so this has been ongoing through the pandemic. We have had the meetings, we continue to negotiate. Our team, DeGazio, Fitzpatrick, and Zorbas, our kind of leadership team, have been continuing that, keeping me posted, and then having me involved in some of the decisions. So we were able to negotiate with them. So we negotiated downward with these are brownfield, so we were able to negotiate downwards as to how much money we were actually going to give them for the remediation through our programs. And that was important because, a project of this magnitude really wasn't anticipated when we get into the brownfield TIGs. So, we had to negotiate that down. But on the plus side, partially helping with our mitigation is that through an agreement, we were going to be signing an MOU, which has been prepared, and I will be signing it very shortly. Empire Homes will be footing the bill and building the bridge, the new Dane City Bridge. So that's probably going to be, about a $15 to $16 million project. We've got $5 million from City of Welland, provincial and federal government. So our input will be $5 million, and Empire Homes will be doing the rest of that build. So, and that's an interesting thing, because it's not that it's radical, but it's a way that we can get a bridge without having it fall back on the municipality again. And so we don't need, that's a large capital project that we are able to complete without putting much more money into it. So it's a very creative way of getting that done. We've also negotiated with them, a recreational park. So they'll be putting in $1 million+ into that program, again, mitigating costs to our municipality. So, it's a kind of a win-win situation for all of us, and we're certainly happy to have that happening. And so I guess based on the format that we have here, maybe I'll just list some of the things that have been going on throughout the pandemic and sort of where we're at with them, because it's been very, very busy. So when we just look at, we have several residential projects on the go right now. We're just pumping out building permits, like lots and lots of them. And that's the result of continuing to deal with the applications and subdivision agreements, et cetera, through the pandemic. Our staff has been working diligently on those things, and so we're able to continue without really having a blip in this situation. Recently, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was over on Lancaster Drive. Skyline has been in town for a couple of years. They own the apartment building that's just kind of adjacent to the Seaway Mall property there. And so they purchased that building. They purchased a couple other buildings, but I was at a groundbreaking ceremony a few weeks ago where they're going to be putting in a new apartment right beside that one, which will provide, we need more multi-residential properties, and that's a good one. So we're going to see more and more of those things happening. About a month or so ago, I was at a meet and greet sort of soft opening sort of thing with the new McDonald's restaurant over on Lincoln Street. So that project, if you will recall, there was nothing there when the pandemic started, and today there is a McDonald's, an operating McDonald's there. So it just shows that it continues on. And that's associated with the Plaza Court development, which is, the Grand Canal retirement residence. So again, you'll see that it was a hole in the ground essentially at the beginning of the pandemic, and now they've got all of the stories completed and they're working on the inside. I did a tour of that about 3 weeks ago as well, just to see how they're coming along. And they're coming along great. So as they say, that's another development really important for our community, and multi-residential again for the seniors community. And it is linked into our seniors complex, or not seniors complex, sorry, but our wellness complex. It will be accessible, enclosed connection between the two. So there'll be the ability to go sort of in and out. So the public will be able to get into certain portions of the Plaza Court building. They'll have a restaurant or some sort of food service there. And so it's a great connection, good partnership again, so we've got the MOU with Empire. That's a great partnership. We got a great partnership with the Plaza Court on that side. So when I was out doing that tour, we went across the street and had a look at the boathouses, our community boathouses, which are those container type constructions, which are virtually complete. And they will be our rental facilities. They'll be opening probably in May of next year. And that's going to be a great facility for our community. And it's also an attraction for, when people come to Welland. We have a lot of people coming from the GTA. Prices are obviously a great concern, but the other part of it is the amenities and people that come into our community. We're kind of used to what we have here. I've lived here all my life, and I think Dolores probably has, and so you sort of sometimes take it. You just sort of take it. Well, it is what it is. However, when you come from somewhere else, they're just amazed at what we have here, and through their eyes, I see exactly what they're talking about. We really have come a long way in utilizing our canal lands. So as an example of that, when I first became mayor, one of my mandates was, and Fern, you were on the economic development team for a long time. We keep saying, that recreational canal is a great asset, and it's got a lot of potential. And we're actually utilizing that potential. So we're turning that potential into reality. And that's, we're kind of getting tired of talking about, wow, this, the potential's there. We're actually using it now. So the Plaza Court was an interesting build because we were talking to them. They were buying a piece of property from us in that area. And they said, what do you think? Could we buy, gave me a call and Dan DeGage a call. Could we buy the parking lot? Because that's on the canal. Why do you want to have a parking lot on the canal when you could have a residence on the canal? So, smart people, and we could do that. It was a pain in the neck for a while because the parking was difficult, but we've got that resolved now. So, these are developments. There's another development going to be occurring. I think they're getting ready for the permit stage shortly across the canal on the corner of Lincoln and Dennistown. And the guy there is, we've been talking to him, and he's getting ready to build again. He'll be doing some residence along the canal. And I want to temper that with the fact that we're not selling canal. We're not selling the land on the canal. There will always be public access to the canal. The pathways remain, that none of that changes. So I just want to make it clear that we're not selling canal. We're not selling access to the canal. We are going to retain that. We had, this is a TNR, which is a new company that makes houses and residences and other things out of containers. So, we got the idea we're going to put these containers, and DeGage and I were talking to somebody, let's build these things with containers on the canal for our boathouses. And now we have CNTNR coming to Welland. We met with them during the pandemic in person. They wanted to meet in person, so we met over at the hotel there, and their large room, and we were all separated by 20 feet or so from each other. And then we had a great meeting with them. They were looking at a couple of locations, and they decided to come to Welland, and they're manufacturing now at 125,000 square foot manufacturing located at the former Stelco plant near where you used to work there, Vern, and across the street almost. And they've got, I don't know the number of employees they have now, but I'm thinking it's probably somewhere around 100. In discussions with them, I think it was last week or the week before, they're expanding, and it's potentially could get up to 300 employees fairly soon, and they may be looking at 600 employees as they move further forward. So, we're doing well on the employment side, or the job side, as well on the investment side. Again, another one that came up was it's a company called NB Distillers Licked Spirits, and they called. I was on vacation, and they called City Hall and said, we want to talk to the mayor. And my Teresa, my administrative assistant, gave me a call and said, these people want to talk to you. I said, well, give me the number. I'll give them a call. So the person on the other line, her name is Jazz. She said, I can't believe you're phoning me. You're on vacation. I said, no, you're interested. Let's get together. Let's figure this out. So they came down. We had a meeting with them, and the meeting went very well. Essentially ended with, well, we're going to do it in Welland. And so they're going to be opening a distillery, and probably a restaurant. So I'll let them tell their story, but it's going to be quite a facility that they're going to do, and it's going to be built behind the Flatwater Center. So it's along the canal on our pathways. So, again, it fits into another somewhat of a waterfront or canal development that will enhance, people's experiences along the canal and along those along the trails. There's a Holiday Inn Express is now you can look at it, you can tell it's a Holiday Inn Express is being built. It was slowed down a bit by the pandemic, I believe, the construction on it, but they're back at it, and it's looking great. Just on the city side, we haven't slowed down. We still have large capital projects that we're working on, so we're moving closer to getting in the ground with our 2 new fire halls. The city needs 2 new fire halls. If you follow the story on that one, the fire halls that we have really aren't set up for the equipment, and they're old and aging, so we do need them. And we also need them in specific different locations because of, or at least one of them in a different location because of how the city of Welland is expanding. So they're strategically located, and we're looking forward to getting those done. You'll see that we've got construction on 2 lots in the River Road Industrial Park is going to begin soon. I can't tell you who they are at this moment. I could, but it's really their story to tell. So I'll wait till they're ready to tell their stories. But we're in touch with them and working closely with them. So that site is almost full. New manufacturing facility, again, is going to be happening at our Enterprise Industrial Subdivision. And Vern, I think you might have been around for getting that started when you were on the economic development side there. So that was a brilliant move, way back when, to do that, having a service industrial land established. Didn't really sell much for a long time, but the good thing was that it was there, so that when the button was pushed, we're ready to go. And that's one of our reasons for our success, is that the planning from previous is now paying off in the present, and we're really looking forward to continuing that. So that's why we did build a new industrial park, fully serviced, and again, it's being snapped up, and we're going to have to get another one. There's another interesting thing that's come up for our Flatwater Center, and that's the Row Ontario selected Welland site for their new Ontario Performance Center. And that's a kind of a coup for us, because it's a well-recognized organization, and it just adds to the the value and the usefulness of our Flatwater Center. So those things are moving nicely. The urban boundary expansion that we're working on is making its way through Regional Council now, ROPA 18, and that is happening in Welland's northwest area. It's really the area where the former soccer dome was out there. And it's an interesting piece of property because it's surrounded by development from Thorold and Pelham, and of course Welland. So we call it the hole in the donut because it's outside of our urban boundary, but it should be inside of our urban boundary. So that's what we're working on, just to get that in there. And it fits in with provincial policy on provincial planning policy and the Golden Horseshoe growth plans, because it's utilizing infrastructure. You know, the key, what's happening a lot in Welland is we're using existing infrastructure. So we're not extending infrastructure as much as utilizing. So when I described that piece of property to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, when I'm asking for some help to get it into the urban boundary, which they did provide, they provided new legislation that allows for 40 hectares of land, parcels of land to be included in the urban boundary through this process. But when I explained it to him, you know, I said, this is really an infill project. It's not an urban boundary expansion so much as it is an infill. We've got millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure, regional infrastructure going right down the middle of the road, right beside it. And the concept is, you know, there's all that money put into it, use it. And so we're hoping that that will happen soon. It will provide much needed housing in our area. And again, it fits in with all those policies that are required. So we're looking forward to having that happen. It's been a long struggle, like 5 years maybe. So we're working on that. I guess my final comments would be about, you know, how do we support business? How do we support the community? It's sort of all those things that I just said. We don't stop, we continue. And it's a matter of making sure that, you know, we had momentum going into COVID. We were coming out of COVID with increased momentum, and things had continued to happen. So we're seeing new businesses locating out on Niagara Street. You know, there's a new plaza out there that will house some new businesses. And so it's a matter of just keeping things rolling. You know, I think when we look at all of the development that's happening in Welland, it's actually quite organized. You know, it's really part of a planning. It has a lot to do with, you know, what do we need and how can we utilize our assets and our infrastructure assets and our brownfields. And it's really critical for us to remediate our brownfields. It's, you know, so we have, you know, the Empire Group will be doing a great job of cleaning up a property that really was not much use for anything. And that's one of the issues with Welland, is that we have a lot of brownfield. Our city was built around industry. So, you know, you've got Atlas Steel's property, which is on, you know, Main Street. It fronts right on Main Street. We've got, you know, the old Page Hersey tubes plant right down at the end of King Street. We have the old Wellment property right on King Street. So all of these properties need to be remediated. And so we're making some great inroads through our brownfield programs that are attracting people to do that. It makes it worth their while. And we're also continuing to support, you know, seniors residents. So, you know, Foyer Richelieu is building. We're supporting them from a financial perspective, but also by lobbying and working with upper levels of government to help them. Hospice Niagara will be associated with that. They're going to get started on that. Again, we're supporting them. So, you know, it's really multifaceted. You know, there's so many things that, as you know, and we all know, you know, municipal government is involved in. They're involved in everything that's happening within their municipality. So we're trying to do the best we can for all of those folks. So maybe I'll leave it there, Vern, in case there's some questions. I'm sure I've missed all kinds of stuff, but I just want to give you a kind of a high level of what's happening in our community and how we are progressing and how we are coming. We're going to come out of COVID-19 in very good shape.
Mayor Campion, you just blew it out of the water. That's unbelievable. I can't think of a municipality in Canada that could tell a story equal to that one. You know, it's interesting because you have to make a bar graph of the population of Welland from 1960 to today. And on the last part, you shadow the time that you've been mayor. And we're going to see an asymptotic gain in population from that point. I don't think you can take all credit for it, but nonetheless, you know, in the last while, it's just been crazy as far as what that bar graph will look. First time in how long do we have to change the population signs?
Yeah, well, Vern, I thanks for that. And you're right. I mean, it's not all me. It's a team. It's a team effort from, you know, the mayor's office, the councilors, and our staff, and of course the community. You know, we're all in this together. I think that's one of the first things I said when I was elected in 2014. I think I said we're all in this together, so we have to work together to make it happen, and it is happening. and I think one of the major changes here is probably the city. You know, when I got here, I said, you know, we really have to be more entrepreneurial. We need to, if we're dealing with business, we have to think like business. And when we're dealing with residents, we have to think like residents. So it's that kind of an entrepreneurial approach, and then a tight team that works really, really well together. It's very streamlined. We've figured out, you know, our development team was comprised of people from every part of our staff here, you know, from planning, building, engineering. So when you sit down with our development team, you're coming into town. I always, and I come in and talk to them as well. I always get the same response from them. This is amazing. I've never been in a municipality like this where, you know, the mayor actually comes in and talks to us. We've got everybody at the table here giving us information so that when they move forward, before they move forward, we can tell them exactly what they need to do, how they need to do it. And so it is, we do get a lot of compliments on that. And I appreciate that. And it's due to the ability of staff to work as a team.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I'll just make a comment. You know, I'm raised in Welland, and you know, and certainly, you know, it's my hometown. I was bike riding on the east side of the canal from Lincoln Street up to, or from Ontario Street up to Lincoln Street, just going underneath the or over the railway bridge tracks there, and came down the other side. There's a little park on the right, and I looked down on the left into the canal, and there was a lovely dock that was put maybe by the city. I don't know who put it there. And two groups of people in lawn chairs sitting there having their coffee and chatting with each other on the water. And I mean, you know, at a time of COVID, when we had throngs of people trying to find a place to dip their toe, here you had people that walked from their home with their lawn chair and a coffee cup in their hand, or a beer in their hand, I'm not sure, and you know, went down this set of steps and could jump into the water for a dip in lovely clean water, and come back out and sit in a chair and just relax in the sun. You know, that picture to me was enough to say, where else do you want to be? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, it's crazy what's going on. Let me get to some questions here. Wanted you to touch certainly on the other big MOU with HOPA, with Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, Port Colborne and Thorold, and you know that was a big announcement. Obviously, there's been a lot of smoke, you know, for the last little while about discussions of things happening. Can you tell us, you know, what do you think the rate of development is that going to be? Is it something that's we're going to see in 10 years, less than that? How does it affect the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation? And what does Welland have specifically as far as, you know, property on the canal that you think can be serviced and actually you could pitch as industrial development?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for reminding me about that one.
Not the least of which. There are too many to remember them all, I tell you.
As I said, I'm sure I missed something. That was one of them. Yeah, certainly that is big news for our municipality. So yeah, the agreement with HOPA, you know, Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, has been in the works for quite some time. You know, when DeGazio and I were talking about, you know, we really should be utilizing the actual working canal, so the bypass canal. We're looking at opportunity there, and we got in touch with Ian Hamilton, who's the head of HOPA, and you know, great connection with him. So we started talking about that, and then we were looking at, well, other municipalities, and Vance Badaway was involved as well. These are federal lands and federal assets, so to speak. And it evolved into this joining of forces between Port Colborne, Welland, and Thorold. Get along great with all those, Ulini and Bill Steele down there. You know, we kind of think the same way. And we're looking at, well, you know, what can we do? One of the issues was, how do you purchase the land from essentially the federal government, Lands Canada, but they're operated under the Seaway Authority. So about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we went down to Ottawa and had meetings with various ministries and start talking about, we would like to purchase some land, and we actually put little X's on the lands that we wanted. And it's a long, long process. So this MOU, I wouldn't say it doesn't circumvent the process. Well, I guess it really does, but it's a way around that long drawn out process whereby a port authority can ask for lands to use for, docks and ports essentially. So it allows us to speed up the process. Still needs, we're not there yet, but we need the federal government to approve of the whole thing. But it gives us a way to get this done faster. So to get back to your points, there are several pieces of property along the canal that are owned by the federal government that we can utilize. And parts of them will be easier to service, some will be more difficult to service, but I think they're all functional. So through the MOU, we've essentially formed under the umbrella of HOPA, Niagara Ports, I think that's what we're calling it. And so we will have something in each one of the 3 municipalities under the MOU. And what it does is it fits in with the federal government's, a lot of the federal government's policies and things that they want to do. In order to move goods nationally and internationally, it's critical. So we start looking at things like highways, linkages, rail linkages, and so kind of multimodal, but having access to assets. So fortunately, actually all 3 municipalities have retained most of their rail lines. So these rail lines were very busy when, Atlas was running stuff and, pipe was moving, et cetera, et cetera. And then, Wellens thing as well, where rail and water meets. So my point is kind of back to the future where, we do have, if you go down on the recreational canal, you'll see where there are tie-offs where, ships would pull over, barges would pull over for transporting goods. So we're getting back to that. So what it does is in the port, a good example is if you look at the Hamilton port, under the Hamilton Port Authority, there are multiple businesses that locate there because these businesses require either incoming or outbound shipping. And so the link with rail and highway puts the whole package together. So fortunately, the 3 municipalities have all of those assets that are required. So the final piece is let's use the water now. And it's becoming a more and more important mode of transportation based on bulk. It also opens up markets, the international markets. So we've been talking to, briefly prior to COVID, with the Port of Miami, which I believe is the largest port maybe in the world, certainly in North America. So you look at the transport of goods coming, through here. So it comes through the Wellington St. Lawrence Seaway, goes out into the ocean, and then it can either go south down to Miami and then through the Panama Canal, or it can go across over to Europe. So when you start looking at the global picture, the opportunity for businesses involved in the international markets is phenomenal. And so we're hoping to capitalize on that by making this move. And, it's it's going to require a lot of cooperation. And certainly the MOU establishes that cooperation.
Do we see the infrastructure in most of the places that you're asking for, or would you need the region to bring services in there?
Well, we would have to look at the specifics of it. So we haven't drilled down that far. We're looking for probably, I'm hoping there will be federal funds to assist with this because it really is part of their trade program and their trade corridors. So, I think there will be monies available for that, and bottom line, we'll get it done. Cool.
That's really cool. That's amazing. And again, going back to the Empire Homes Dane City development, that's talk about PPP, private-public partnerships. You're a poster child right now for getting a bridge built, and a park put in. Park not so much. That's pretty common, but to build a bridge, I don't think too many residential developers are building bridges at this point in time. So congrats, hats off to you for that one. One of the questions that did come through with regards to the Dane City development was a concern for biodiesel, which is an operation neighboring, I think, perhaps, or close to that facility, or the project we're talking about, and is it going to hinder it? And quite frankly, that question came up. It wasn't mine, but right now we're dealing with Washington Mills and a couple of places, on Stanley Avenue, Niagara Falls, where Thundering Waters Residential is closing down the industry, and they were there first, sort of thing. So I hate seeing stuff like that. But how is biodiesel going to be affected?
Well, the biodiesel has been there for quite some time, and there is residential virtually beside biodiesel right now. So,
Good point.
if you look to the south, you'll see residential's right there. It's a clean, safe business, and I don't see that there's going to be a big problem with that. We need to make sure that there are buffers or whatever, something in between. But I think, and we've talked to the Ministry of the Environment, and we've spoken with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, is when we have an existing business, residential shouldn't be able to put them out of business. Yeah. And that's how we feel. So I've been talking actually just recently about this with Dan and some of our team. So when these houses are built and the plant is there has to be some sort of acknowledgement from the people who are purchasing the houses that, yes, I am fully aware that there is business here and that it may make noise, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure, we're looking at how do we or can we build that into the process of the construction, because we do want to protect business, but we also want people to enjoy their houses. And so, it's a matter of, you know what you're buying. And I don't see that that's going to be a problem, but you certainly want everybody to be aware of it. And it's kind of, very, as growing up in Welland as I have, this was a very, very noisy town when we were young. I lived across the canal from Atlas Steels, several kilometers away, and every night I'd hear the thumping of the big forges, and you'd hear so industry makes noise. And if you look at where Atlas properties are now, and they're still melting over there, there are houses right beside it, because that's how we used to live. I work at Atlas, I live across the street from Atlas, I work here, so it was fine. Everybody knew what they were getting into because the industries were there. When we see the industry start to slow down and shut down, then people get used to, well, there is no noise. And so, houses change hands, and then wait a minute, now Atlas Steels, there's another good news story, was purchased by Valbruna, which is a large steel manufacturer out of Italy. So they get busier, some of these places, and people, well, what's that noise? Well, you're living beside a factory. So, people have to recognize what they're doing, and I'm hoping that there will not be that conflict, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that people are aware of what they're buying. And, if it's a matter of putting some sort of clause into the purchase agreement, I don't know. But we're working on that side of it, not just for that property, but for all properties.
On the residential development topic, did you see any problems with the northwest boundary issue at regional council, or do you think this is just a rubber stamp, or is it a 50-50, we're biting our nails, or how's that looking?
It's coming along. It's a bit frustrating because it's taking an awful long time, and I'm a very patient man, but when we see something needs to get done, then it's not that I'm impatient, but it's time to get it done. So we're not biting our fingernails here. We're looking to the region to get it done. We're monitoring, and obviously I'm sitting on regional council, so it's going to come up tonight, just the preliminary report on the ROPA 18, and it appears as though it's moving forward. And I want to just keep it moving forward. So
nice.
I'm confident we'll get one way or another.
a bit of a bad subject, but one that we should bring up. We've had issues with the safety of our walking trails of late. That's certainly of concern, and whether people do it subconsciously or not, it draws them back into their homes. They feel insecure. Certainly, women walking alone and so forth. Is there anything that we're doing from a city standpoint to assist in that resurging crime issue?
Yeah, so it is an unfortunate situation. We certainly don't want any of that happening in our municipality. We want people to be, feel safe when they're out walking in our community. So we're concerned. We're working with the police, obviously, to ensure that our trails are safe and that perpetrators are caught and taken off the streets so this doesn't happen again. There are things that we are doing, putting lighting in the right places, clearing brush so that it's, we don't want to have too much seclusion of places where people can be hiding or that sort of thing. So we're taking a different approach from our maintenance where we, try to clear, if we have trees, we want it to be cleared for, 4 feet above the ground, that kind of thing. So we're just starting those types of activities. And you're right. You're really right about this, especially during the pandemic. People need to be able to get outside and walk around. And that's really, we're focusing on that right now. And that's part of our emergency management team conversations, which we have about twice a week now. We were having them daily, but they're about twice a week. We're going to really step it up on our pathways, particularly as we get into the winter months. We need to be able to get people to be able to use the paths. So we're looking at different things about clearing the paths and, again, making sure they're safe. If, looking at analyzing them and say, well, where are the bad spots? And, as for me, one of the issues was on the path running up Prince Charles Drive. And, when you look at it in daylight, it's pretty wide open. So then it becomes a problem where we really need the police and the community to be aware. We all have a responsibility to, make sure our neighbors are safe as well as ourselves are safe. And, we want to make sure that people are aware, because as we all know, these things can and do happen. And sometimes, there's not much you can do about it unless you're at the right place at the right time. So everybody should be kind of vigilant and looking at, if we're out walking, make sure we feel safe. And as I say, from the city side, we need to, put lighting in where lighting is required. We're talking about not probably so much on the paths, but we are talking about getting cameras. That was a recent discussion with the police, so with the partnership with the NRP. That's going to be on a budget item for us. So we want to step up having cameras available. So yeah, we are concerned about it. We are aware of it, and we are working to resolve these problems.
Nice. You mentioned also the fact that we need to use our brownfield lands for development. Has there been any debate or concern as to whether the brownfield properties go too much to residential and not having enough available for industrial, commercial, or has there been a tug of war? Or are we just happy to say that we have enough in each, or where's that balance, and where does that balance discussion happen?
Yeah, well, a part of it is we have much more control over land that we own. So that's one part of it. The other part is what's the best use for a piece of property, residential, industrial, what. So you're right, it is a balancing act, and we do need to. We still have industrial properties. The city of Welland wants to we want to own some more industrial properties. So that's what we're looking at. When we look at it, we really need to get industry where industry should be. And that's why we're sort of driving things out to the 140 corridor, because that's should be our industrial area. It's on a highway. If you look at a place like Brantford, all of their industrial goes right along the highway there. So we need to direct that development to those particular areas, because it makes sense with the infrastructure that we have, availability of land. And as you know, like that basically a lot of industry are on that corridor already. So, we need to make that separation between, industrial, residential. At one point on the Empire properties, the back property there was converted to residential. I don't think I was on council at the time, but it was converted to residential. And so if we're going to have a little pocket of industry with residential around, it gets to that problem that you were mentioning before with folks out there. So we really, sometimes it makes sense to convert from industrial to residential, just because the mix where things should be, because the way the city's evolving, and because it was kind of haphazard at one point. You had a big plant essentially downtown, another big plant essentially downtown, and then you got so we're really looking at what's the best use, where should it be, and as I say, I really think we're trying to drive industry into very specific areas.
Makes sense. Do you see our housing boom, I'll call it, slowing down as a result of limited land zoning right now, or do you see it continuing at its present pace for the next 5-10 years or whatever?
Yeah, that's, you think you hit it right about where I'm thinking about it. I think this will continue for another 5 to 8 years, maybe. We have ample land at the moment. And again, we're just trying to put it in the right place, the right time, and utilizing as much existing infrastructure as we can. There's a potential of 1,500 houses out in the Dane City area. We've got several large pieces of land where residential should be, and I think it's happening there. So I think, I was just talking to staff here, I would think in the next 20 years, the population of Welland will be about 80,000 people. I think it's just due to, provincial policy. I think it has a big part of it. Not the exodus, but the people moving out of the GTA or the Toronto area, Hamilton, moving down here for a variety of reasons. And a lot of it, these people say, well, it's cheaper. The driving prices are going up here, which is unfortunate for people that live here. But I think it's a natural progression that's going to continue for quite some time. People have to have somewhere to live, and this is a great spot. So part of it's the price, but I hear more and more from people that come here, they love the lifestyle. And we do have a really good lifestyle here down in Niagara, well in Niagara. I mean, there's not a better place to live, and people are starting to recognize that.
Unbeatable. That's fantastic. You touched upon it a little bit, and I was thinking about it when you said it. I'm guilty. When COVID came along, I was never an Amazon shopper, and but with COVID, I was having things dropped off at my door so conveniently and so forth. And I'm sure some of the stuff I bought was at the jeopardy of a local merchant. And is it a federal issue, a provincial issue, a regional or municipal issue? But what can we do more from a municipality standpoint to remind people to buy local, and don't have your groceries dropped off at your front door if you can buy them down the street at a fruit stand or whatever. Are there things underway? Are there more things that could be done? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting, proposition, because we think about that a lot. And I know you do well as well at the chamber.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the chamber, I believe the chamber is putting on some programming, is assisting people or informing them as to how they can get into the online economy.
We have a number of series of educational programs that touch upon those subjects.
Yeah, that's what I was, because I know I was reading about it. I think that's what we need to do. So I think you folks at the chamber are on top of that part of it. We certainly want to partner with and help people, be a conduit to a degree and promote that type of business. When I look at COVID, I take kind of maybe a strange approach to it, but what it does is it brings out the disruptors, right? So it provides opportunities for disruptors in business. And those disruptors are people like Amazons, and here's a different way of doing things. Here's a different way of buying. And then when the pandemic comes, as you say, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go buy this on Amazon, or I'm going to go buy this online from somewhere else. So I think the key is the message: buy locally, and also to the business community, be prepared to compete in the online market, so to speak. Because the disruptors, when they should keep calling them disruptors, but when people start utilizing these things, they see convenience, but what's lacking is the experience. So we want to encourage people, when it's the right time, buy locally. You do have options. You can get your meal delivered, or you can go out and have dinner. You can get your goods from this, your local store delivered to you, or you can go shopping. And as we come out of this, I think the message has to be slightly changed. I don't use the word pivot anymore. I'm sick of the word pivot, but we need to change things so that we're expressing the experience of shopping. So going to a store, remember when you used to go to the store and you could look at, 6 dresses, or, to try on 20 pairs of shoes, or whatever you want. So I think we want to enhance the experience and change the experience to a degree. And I think that way, then the businesses become disruptors. So we're competing on multiple levels, and you have options with us that you don't have options with other people. And then, do you have a wine and cheese night? Like, come up with ideas that will draw people back into your business so that they will participate in wanting to actually get out and go into your store. And so it's not an easy task, but I think there's so many different pieces to it that you put together. But I do commend the Chamber for introducing that, the programming that you have there, because people should be prepared if they're able to compete on the online market, or alternate delivery systems and that kind of things.
That's true. Well said. I'll bring up maybe a sensitive topic, but it's one that's not your tenure, but it's been, I believe, an anchor on Welland for many decades, and that's the cost of doing a proper storm sewer separation. Every term and every budget we're putting money into it, but where are we along that long, expensive road, and are we getting anywhere?
Yeah, I guess the best way, we're making progress. We have been putting more money into sewer separation. You're right, it's an extremely costly thing. We're taking a very planned approach to it. Where do you get the best bang for your buck? So there's I think it's $12 to $14 million project happening in the Edgar Elgin area, which runs one of the older sections of town, where we can take a lot of that the stormwater out of the system. So I think that's a part of it. And as you'll be aware, we need to make sure that when we're doing a spot, that's the planning process of it. When we do this particular area, does it link into another area? So we've got to make sure that it, kind of is linear to a degree. I know that our new engineer, head of engineering here, has proposed that let's really have a hard look at this in particular areas where we have more serious problems. Let's have a hard look at this, and don't start putting Band-Aids on things. Let's look at it and fix it so that it, the problem starts way over here and it ends way over there. So don't put a Band-Aid in the middle of it. Let's start fixing it from over here to over there. So I think it's a good approach that we're dealing with, because the other part of it is infiltration from like lots of other areas, old industrial properties, where we're getting a lot of water coming off these huge parking lots and going into the system. So we need to disconnect all of those things as well. So you're right, it's a huge project. We're making progress, and I think we're seeing actually the results of that through the rates that we're paying. So we're getting there.
Not bad. Not bad. That's awesome.
Sorry,
That's all the
sorry,
questions.
Vern, if
Sorry?
I just wanted to say, this council that we have in the previous council made it a priority. So they're putting more money into it than the previous councils have. So I think it's
Hats off to them, because that's not a politically convenient expenditure by any stretch of the imagination. So it
you
takes a bit of
bury it.
fortitude, a bit of confidence to do it. So hats off to getting that through council. That's fantastic. Yeah, again, I can't think of a city in Canada that has a good news story as much as Welland's right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. Even on a per capita ratio, certainly in Niagara, we're blowing everybody out of the water on a per capita basis of industrial development, money invested, perhaps even residential. I think we might be beating everybody on a per capita basis that way. I don't know, but no, hats off to you. And again, we have a lot of great conjunctions of, brownfields, canal, recreational property, available this, available that. But nevertheless, it took good leadership to bring all those recipes together and bake the cake. And because those recipes have been around for a while and nobody baked the cake, so hats off to you guys and your team for putting that all together and gelling it, making it happen. So you've got a great catalyst going there. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much. Um, Mayor Campion, it's been wonderful hearing what you had to say today. This continuous flow of information from all of our mayors is very valuable to our residents and our chamber members. We certainly appreciate the relationship that the Chamber of Commerce has with the City of Welland and our mutual continued support. So thanks again. I'll mention one last time, if there are any questions that have not been answered or you'd like to have answered, please pass them on to the Chamber and we'll do our best to take it to the respective people to get some answers for you. Our final reminder, our next session of the Mayor's Update series is October 29th, next Thursday, with, I'll say, colorful Mayor Diodati. That is never a boring session with that mayor, so it should be exciting, I'm sure. You can register for that session today online at the Chamber site. We'll also be hosting a learning forum tomorrow, October 23rd at the same time that this started, 10 a.m. The topic for this learning forum is how to protect your business during and after pandemic. And will feature presenters from both workplace safety and prevention services as well as the Ministry of Labor. Finally, we ask that you consider submitting a short 20-second video of a superstar of South Niagara, a superstar company of South Niagara that you'd like to promote on our website. And details for that can be found on our website. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. And again, Mayor Campion, that was not refreshing. That was that was a dose of fresh water. That was amazing. Please continue the good work. That was fantastic, and Welland is very grateful for it, as well as Niagara.
Thanks, Vern. I'm going to pass those comments on to council and our staff as well. It's a team effort. I guess I'm the face of the team at this point, but thank you very much for what you're doing for our community as well. It's very valuable, the programming that you just mentioned, and I think this type of a forum is good as well. People need to know what's going on from a municipal perspective, so I really appreciate it. And finally, I'm most appreciative of you putting me on before Diodati instead of after Diodati.
The mayors had to pay extra money to get on before Diodati. I don't know. You probably didn't get the invoice yet, but it'll be on its way. He'll also have some form of rebuttal to that, I'm sure, won't he, Mayor Campion? Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Thanks again.
Bye. Okay. Bye.